I still haven't plugged in my goddamn button thing. I forget the name. I don't even know what the name. I don't know what I should call it. Anyway, doesn't matter. Hello. Is this the last stream? Maybe. I don't know. We can discuss that. What time zone am I in? I am in Australian Eastern Standard Time, and specifically not Australian Daylight Savings Time. I'm in Queensland, so there is no daylight savings. It is 7 p.m. for me. Here we are here. Hello. Oh, the camera's all messed up. Wait. From the gaming stream. Got moved around. Still have the background music folder showing on stream. How unprofessional of me. Stream Elements is flipping in the chat. Oh, YouTube chat's not even showing. Oh my god. Have I even forgotten how to take one day off and I forget how to do my entire job? There we go. Just let me move that. Okay. What's good? Turbo Seb. Hey, how's it going? Welcome to the stream. Welcome. Okay. Is the repo going to be public? Yes. It will be at some point. The problem is I used the Mixamo animations, and sharing those in this asset pack is technically against terms of service. So I'm going to need to reanimate this entire thing before I actually put it on the asset library, which low-key kind of sucks, but it is something that I need to do in order for me to publicly share this without breaking terms of service. And I'm going to try to do that because that's kind of important. We don't want to be like, we don't want to be out here breaking terms of service. That's it's not something we want to do, even though I don't really care. I'll try to do the right thing. All right. So what have we got on the agenda today? Is it the last stream? Maybe. I'm almost done with this. I have to go make content. And unfortunately, the time that I'm streaming is the time that I used to make content. So if you haven't noticed, you could make the state machine public. Yeah, I absolutely could. Might I? Yeah, I could do that. I could just replace, get rid of the character and just put a pill shape here. And then do an animated one later. But the point of it is that we're very close to being done, and I sort of have to go make the videos after this. Now that this big project is done, that's generally how I like to do things. I like to build it first and then make the video. So I have to go do that now, which is going to take ages. But since I do have to animate it, there might be like some streams still. I don't know how I'm going to balance it. I guess I'll just have to see. I was planning originally to do it all in the morning and then stream in the evening, but we'll see. I don't want to like burn myself out. But we have got a ways to go. And that involves fixing up the rotation and some strange bugs. So this is where we're at. Right now we can, walk around, drop the weapon, and we go into walking mode. But when we rotate the mouse, the character rotates. So we want to fix that this evening. That's the first thing on our list. And there's a bug with the weapon. I don't know if I can recreate it here. I actually know what the problem is. I've been tinkering around with this on the last couple of days. Let's see if I can get it to happen. There we go. See the hand IK? Gets stuck. Now this is a problem with the tweens. So it's just a matter of working out how we can alleviate that from happening. I tried something this afternoon, but I wasn't able to like get something that I like. It didn't work essentially. It did prevent that from happening, but it also like prevented other things from working properly too. So, it wasn't exactly like a clean solution. So let's get into it. Desktop audio is really loud, eh? I'm curious how you implemented the raycast for the bullet target. How does it shoot sideways if there is an enemy close to the player? Oh yeah, I saw you ask this, and the answer is it doesn't. I don't think. I did have that issue originally, but now I don't know if I can create that kind of issue. It's sort of always going to work, right? The reason for that is that, see, the thing is now what I did was I made it, oh no, I didn't make it that. So like technically, so here, the camera is behind the object. So theoretically, the bullet should come back towards us, right? But it doesn't. Now, why is that? The reason is because the raycast isn't colliding with the character. It just collides with the world. That's my assumption, actually, because I think you're right in saying that. You won't have GNU2. No, it'll be MIT licensed, Bondo. You'll be right to use it for anything you want. MIT is the way to go, I think, with this kind of stuff. It's like, why else would it, like, what other license would you put on it? Unless you're trying, like, purposely to gimp people. Like, this is not like, this method I took from someone else. I've changed it, but like, you know, everyone gets it from someone else. And then you sort of put your own spin on it, how you like things, but this pattern is not like something I invented, if that makes sense. So I don't, like, it, even like from a moral perspective, it wouldn't make sense for me to put like a license that restricts it, because the license that I got it from was MIT. Okay, so why is the camera not causing funny issues with the character? Theoretically, I don't really care. I'll be honest, like, the raycast isn't what does the damage, right? It's the raycast just figures out where to send the bullet, because you want the bullet to always go towards the center of the screen, right? And so there's this funny thing where bullets won't actually go towards the center of the screen if you just fire them forward, right? So you sort of need to raycast to work out where that is. Yeah, there's a couple of ways you do it. You actually bring up a good point. Like, I could really simplify how this is done. Let me just find where it actually is done. I believe there's a script called projectile that is called, right, a camera projectile. Now it collides with, let's make this a little bit bigger so we can all see it. Maybe too big. It collides with layer 1, which is the world. And realistically, you could turn off everything else, but it doesn't collide with layer 2. And I don't think it, by default, doesn't hit areas, right? Now, the enemy, bring it back, has a collision shape on no layer. It does not mask a layer, right? So theoretically, if I put it on layer 1, we would have this issue, right? Because the collider would actually hit this. So we can recreate this. Now I shouldn't be able to walk through it, right? And, well, the camera collides with it too, so I don't know if I'll be able to make this. Let me see if I can make it happen, eh? I just gotta see. Let me think for a second. Maybe I can jib this up somehow. What does the camera collide with? It's got a mask, right? It collides with layer 1. So let's take this off layer 1. Literally any other layer, doesn't matter, because it collides with every single layer. So let's try this. Now, nothing. How come I can get away with this? What's going on? I actually think, TurboZeb, you're like 100% right. This should happen. Hang on a second. Let's get back to the script. Press this button. So it collides with 1. What if we put it on layer 3? Let's try that. There we go. We got it. So it is something that's worth keeping in mind, that when you are designing something like this, you don't actually want... The raycast is literally... This is actually a really good point that you bring up, because it's like, what if... Okay, so for projectiles, it doesn't matter. Like, we don't really care. We just... What we really want is to get to the center of the screen. Like, you could vastly simplify this projectile, right? And instead of doing a raycast, you can just go project ray origin, right? Ray end. This is literally it. Like, that's all you need. this little section of code here determines the end point of the center of the camera. So you can say the center of the camera's origin is this, which is the viewport divided by 2, right? And then you project ray normal from the center multiplied by some kind of range, right? And that could just be like an arbitrary number. I think for me, it's like 100 meters, right? That could be your endpoint for a projectile weapon that shoots like a rigid body like mine does. And you could end it there. It doesn't really matter because the thing that does the damage is the projectile, right? And so when it makes contact with the enemy, that's when you calculate damage. The rest of this, it doesn't really matter, right? Like, we don't care. Realistically, like it's honestly not important to us. But if you were doing a hit scan weapon, then it would matter. And then you would be actually able to do damage to things within that distance between the enemy and the camera. So like, how do you account for that? It's a really good question, because like, I think you can easily avoid this with a projectile weapon by just not even doing half of this. But for a hit scan weapon, it's a little bit more tricky. You could test. I mean, the answer is to put it on a layer and exclude it, right? Like that's the obvious answer. So you just say like, my enemies, they will collide with the player, but they won't be detected by the raycast because it's not actually that helpful. Like, the problem is then, I imagine targeting the bullet to the environment behind the enemy doesn't really mess with the aiming anyway. No, it doesn't. Yeah, it literally doesn't really. No, yeah, it like I was saying, like you could literally just find the center of the camera and figure out a distance. Like this code here is literally all you need for like a rigid body projectile. For a hit scan weapon, it's a bit different. Hit scan weapons aren't as common in third-person shooters. Like, I literally haven't made one for this because like I can't really think of a reason to do it, but they do exist in some form, or they could exist. There's no reason why they can't, and that would actually cause an issue. What you normally do is have a second raycast, and that second raycast can exclude it. Actually, sorry, no, that second raycast does include that layer, but it goes from the weapon to wherever this first raycast went. So you always have this camera raycast, ignore the enemies. That's got to be the way to do it. Hello, EMS, welcome to the stream. How are you? So that's actually what I'm thinking now, is you say like the enemies. I don't know if I've set up the layers on this project. I really should. Physics, 3D physics. There we go. So let's say the enemies are on layer 3. You stabbed your toes? What the hell? How'd you stab your toes? Do you mean you stubbed them? Like you ran into a piece of furniture with your toes? Or did you stab them with an object? I don't understand. Were you playing that knife game with your toes? Yeah. What does that even mean? Okay, so we say layer 3 is for the enemy. And we can have the player collide with layer 3 so that you can't walk through an enemy. And you put the layer 3 there, the enemy. And then in the project, not in the project settings, but in that script, get back. He stubbed are two different things. He hit a metal long stick. Could be either still. Smart Ape, what is the method of switching weapons? We're just using the scroll wheel at the moment. We can make that more complicated. So basically we've got 1, 2, and 3. You actually want to exclude this. Now I'm actually excluding another layer here. We've got 0, which is the player layer, right? So we've got the player, the enemy, and the bullets. So you don't want to collide with those things, but you do want to collide with the world and the objects. Realistically, you could probably just collide with the world. Like, you don't really need to collide with anything else, to be honest. I mean, I will be even more frank with you guys. Like, to be fair, you don't really need to collide with... I mean, actually, no, I take that back. If you're doing a hit scan weapon, you do need to collide with whatever you're trying to hit. Which is... Okay, so... I'm going over this. It's like actually kind of a problem to have a hit scan weapon in this game, because if you're like trying to hit scan something, you do actually need to make contact with it. So if you were doing a hit scan weapon and the camera could be behind the player, then you would need to do a test to make sure that it was a positive direction. So you would have to say like the position was actually in front of the player for it to be counting as a hit. If you know what I mean. So you could do a check within this to say like, if intersection dot position, do I even have access to the player? I do have access to set projectile, spread, range, damage in. We don't actually have access to the position, but the position of this is set in front of the player. So you could still get the position of this projectile and see if it's going forward. So it always has to be going forward. That would be the test, right? How are you doing today? Making the weapon render not to clip, built on framework. Or will it be responsible for the developer? The weapon? The weapon won't clip because the weapon will be inside a hitbox. See this thing here? Technically it does clip a little bit because like it sits a little bit outside it, but the solution to that is literally just make it bigger. I didn't make this up. So like, I don't know if you guys remember the early streams, I was literally like testing other games to see what they did. And this is actually what they do. You just make the collision like bigger than the character so you can't clip. Like you literally can't walk into a wall. It's just not possible. So yeah, that's what you do. So you don't have to worry about it. Just make it real big. So yeah, now no clipping. And yeah, the camera can't like clip into the wall. It's just not possible. Oh, we were going to test out like picking up. Someone asked about swapping weapons, and it's literally just the scroll wheel at the moment. It's all just held in an array. So every weapon you have is just in an array. Isn't it better to have really fast projectiles rather than a raycast weapon? Yeah. That's what I'd have, right? I don't have any raycast weapons. Like, and that's what I'm sort of like realizing, that I don't really even need to do a raycast for this. Basically the raycast is just there to make sure that it goes towards the center of the camera, but you can just like project ray normal. You don't actually have to do a raycast. You can just find a position down the line somewhere. The only problem with that, so there's an issue. I've made a video on it a really long time ago. The difference between actually doing a raycast and just finding a point from the center of the camera down and sending it that way is that either at very close distances, it's not going to match up, or at very far distances, it's not going to match up. So like you have to decide what you want. I think raycasting is better. Camera position Z close to the player so it doesn't collide with objects. But I think what you do is you work out if the position, so basically what this projectile does is it's instantiated at the end of the weapon, right? So that's like where that bullet comes from is where this projectile class gets instantiated. So this literally exists at the end of the weapon. Like behaves a lot like a projectile. So the camera raycast is still necessary because you have to raycast from the center of the camera for this to look right. I'm trying to learn raycasting, and raycasting shapes at the moment pretty useful. Raycasting is like you have to like know how to do this for it to like work properly. Like in terms of making any kind of game, knowing how to do a raycast and knowing the implications like this one that Turbo Seb has pointed out is important. So okay, let's say we collide with the enemy for this one, because we do want, if you wanted to make a hit scan weapon, you do want it to hit the enemy. But if the collision is not empty, right? So I have a fallback. If you don't hit anything, what do you do, right? Because that can happen. You can fire into the sky and the raycast won't collide with anything. You just return the ray end, right? There is no collider. You didn't hit anything. The point for the bullet to go to is just the end of the ray, and the vector 3, which is the normal, which you would use for like the decal that you wanted to spawn on, like whatever you hit. It's just 0. Like there's nowhere to put it. It's not going to hit anything. To be fair, I think this should probably be calculated when you make the hit, so we might need to change that, but I might just take it out altogether, to be honest, for now. It's there at the moment anyway, but like, it's not being used. So what we need to do is probably within this, just say that if the intersection dot position minus, let's just create a variable rather than an if statement for now. Difference, I don't know what to call it, we'll work on that later. Intersection dot position minus position, global position, I actually don't know. Probably global position is what we want, because we actually want to find out. And do we need that as well? Intersection, that seems to work, so that's fine. It has no static type, thanks. It's a vector 3. Or what about, welcome back, dot direction 2? That's a thing, right? So if I go global position, dot direction 2, and then vector squared is intersection dot position, that should return like a negative number, I'd imagine. I actually don't know. Returns the normalized vector pointing to this, the equivalent is AB normalized. So I would be able to tell if the Z is negative, distance 2 squared. I could also use the dot product, right? Which returns the dot product of the vector. The dot will be 0 for a right angle. The dot product will be 0 for a right angle, greater than 0 for angles narrower than 90 degrees, and lower than 0 for angles with wider than 90 degrees. So if it's right behind, if it's behind you, when using normalized vectors, the result will always be -1 for a 180 degree angle when the vectors are facing opposite direction, and 1 when the vectors are aligned. So like, in theory, it should return -1, right? Should we try that? When using normalized vectors though. Actually kind of curious to see what it comes back with. That would be, you do a dot product to find out if it's like, so you would go, the direction 2 is the normalized vector, and then it would be dot, and it wants another vector 2, which would be basis.z, right? Is that correct? I forget. I'm going to assign to a specific, can I assign a value of type float? Oh, okay, it becomes a float. My bad. So that should be the face, like the direction it's going. And so you basically go, hey, is this like the same? And then you should be able to see the difference between them. Let's have a look. I actually don't know. Maybe I'm not that great at vector math. Ooh. Oh, there it is. Negative. Positive. Okay, that's weird. Yeah, it doesn't really give consistent results, right? Negative. And then sometimes, I like always negative. Because it, right, where's the docs? Let me just go back. I don't know dot that well. Returns, when using normalized, the result will always be between -1 when the vectors are facing opposite directions and 1 when the vectors are aligned. So opposite directions, I must be doing the math wrong. Global position, maybe I just want to use position. Vector math is too hard. Does this actually change anything? I have to keep reading the docs because I forget when the vectors are facing opposite directions. That is not what I wanted, although it is like more consistent. Position dot direction to. I guess it's intersection dot position dot direction to position. We have to do the inverse to get like the position, and then assuming that I've got the right thing for basis Z, like being the forward facing vector. That is how that works, if I'm not mistaken. Positive. Like, I guess, yeah, you would expect it to be 1 here, right? And then we don't want to ever see -1. That's essentially what I'm trying to think of. Yeah, you want to see positive all the time. Hang on a second, let me just like get some more ammo and then do a 360. We want to see positive numbers. I saw a negative number there. What the hell? Because we're turned around, right? Is that what I'm thinking? Like, this is one. We're not taking into account position dot direction to dot. The rotation of this object is not being set. Is that what I'm thinking? Where's the shooting, the weapon manager? Wait, did the music stop? It's very quiet here. I can't hear shit. It's back. All right. Where do we load this projectile? Load projectile. We do set its rotation to be the same as the bullet point. Hello, can you show me how you make the weapon manager in your FPS template detect area 3D? Oh, that's really easy. So what you do, and this is much easier than vector math. Basically, when you get your raycast parameter, like your physics ray query parameter, it by default doesn't detect areas. So you just go like new ray query dot collide with areas, and then true. Just like that. Collide with areas called as a function, but right, okay. Equals true. My bad. Easy peasy. Set collide with areas is the function. But yeah, spent all yesterday trying to learn how to build the nearest proxy detection system that measures distances between shapes and using areas and raycasting and stuff, only to find out that I'm trying to reinvent Shapecast 3D. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's pretty tough. You did that. And does it detect the area? I don't know. Let's have a look. Let's go print collider.name, right? This is, by the way, the exact same code as in the FPS one. It hasn't changed at all. There's literally no reason for it. Okay, so collider.name, let's just disable that print for a second. And what we want to do is go to the enemy. The enemy has areas on it, right? Let's, for a second, just take this off. Just make it not collide with that. But we've got areas, right? The areas are on layer 4. The bullet. It detects bullets. Let's have it detect enemies. Now, we should be able to detect the area. I couldn't get damage through. There's 2 raycasts. Got to do it on both of them. Okay, so that's static body 3D. Let's have a look. Damage area. So we are detecting the area with our raycast. Yeah, I mean, that's all there is to it. If you're still not detecting them, I would say in the FPS one, we did 2. We did 2 raycasts, so you got to do it for both of them. Specifically. So yeah, that's the name of the damage area on the enemy. So we are detecting that. Specifically. So yeah, make sure your layers are correct. And yeah. Anyway, let's go back to struggling with the dot product and figuring out why that doesn't align. My next point of call is this basis.z check here. The basis represents the rotation scale of the shear global basis. Yeah, global basis, maybe? Global basis? Global is the equivalent to global transform dot basis. That's what I wanted. Okay. I'll give it a try. Yeah, give it a go. So perhaps global basis is actually what I wanted, not regular basis, but I don't know why they would be different. Alright, hang on a second. Gotta keep printing this. I'm doing some math. Okay, now it's negative. Oh my god. This is very small. Makes me wonder if it's rotating with the character. I'm getting so distracted from what I was meant to do today. This is interesting though, and it's worth figuring out. Because I think it is like a potential bug that people might run into. Okay, so the other thing that we want to do is try global basis.x. X. But this is the z-axis. Well, I will try that. Because, like, rotations are weird, depending on the object. It is within the skeleton, and the skeleton is all messed up. Maybe. It doesn't really seem to change anything. Same issue. Makes me wonder where this is getting spawned. So what I'm going to do is add an object. So this is on... Wait, so what are we trying to do? You don't get it? This is like, we're trying to work out if what you're detecting, so say this is on layer 3, right? So this is the problem at hand. Let's remove, well, that has been removed, and then go back to the projectile. And we don't want to actually collide with areas. There's no reason for us to do that. So say that we are playing our little 3D shooter here, but you know, I don't know, whatever situation you're into, there's an enemy on screen, and it's somehow between you and the camera, and there's no collision here. We can just run through this guy. I mean, you could design around this by preventing that, but let's say you don't. The raycast to figure out where the bullet should go is coming from the camera, and it's colliding with the enemy, because you need to know if you've hit an enemy, right? We sort of toyed with the idea that maybe you didn't, but in the end I decided that you do need to actually collide with them when you do raycast, because if it was a hit scan weapon, that would actually matter. You probably use the global position like before. That's a good point. So what we need to do is determine if the raycast's position, so the raycast detects something, we actually get the position of the thing that we detected, right? We should determine that if that position is in front or behind the actual position of the projectile. And if it is behind the position, we probably just need to ignore that and not actually include that as a hit and just return the end of the raycast, right? I would say that's a better way of doing it. Ooh, it's not happy. Oh, right. I put that on the wrong thing. Okay, what the hell? Global position. Actually going to put a mesh on this object because I don't understand where it's going. I'll be honest with you, I'm starting to think that why not use a spring arm for the camera? It should be a non-issue. Yeah, well that's the other option, right? So it's something that was in my mind, is to say that I think you're probably misunderstanding the issue, but like at the same time, that is a valid solution to say the spring arm, which is this one here, just collides with enemies. And so if an enemy comes between you and the camera just moves in front of it. Like literally that's the solution, right? I didn't detect it. Huh? Is it the wrong one? What? like this, I think, is a valid solution. So now it's not even going to be an issue because you can't actually put your camera between them and the enemy. I don't really like this, to be honest, from a game perspective. Like this is kind of annoying. But like it works. Like you can no longer collide with him. It's not allowed. Worthy solution. I see a lot of games just do that. Yeah, it's like fuck that. Don't put an enemy between you and the camera. That's like super annoying. But what if it was the world? Yeah, well it collides with the world, so that wouldn't be an issue. Yeah. Valid solution, I think. Maybe we should just leave it at that and move on to the other thing for now. I do think it's worth determining if it's a negative position and excluding that, but we'll come back to it for another time because my brain can't handle this kind of math at the moment. My brain accepts that brain doesn't feel wrong to view. Okay. I think it's just like from a gameplay perspective, you lose vision. Mind the typing. Mind the typing fading? I don't know what you mean by that. So now the other issue is the rotation, right? So when we drop the weapon, I don't think the player should rotate with the camera. This is pretty straightforward. We just need to exclude. Basically, what we need to do is offset that. You know, pretty straightforward. So we go to the camera because that's where we're rotating everything. So when we rotate the camera, let's get rid of this. This is super annoying. So when we rotate, camera look mouse event. Twitch chat over that other side, Lemo. What is typical Twitch chat over on the other side? Yeah, they're giving me bad advice. No, they're all right. I like Twitch. I watch a lot of Twitch. I'm just perma online like that. Okay, so here we go. We are rotating the character here, which is kind of like, it's the character body. More specifically, it's not the model, it's the character body. But what we do need to get access to is like the thing we want to counter rotate. Now, in the skeleton, when we do go into the, I guess like adventure mode, and I hate this arm thing. I gotta fix that as well. Okay, now gotta wait a second and then drop the weapon. We rotate the model to face the direction of the input, right? So we also need to offset the rotation of the camera when we turn the camera so that doesn't happen anymore. So basically we just need to counter rotate the same exact thing, or maybe not the same exact thing, but like something close to what it is. So it's either going to be one of these two, the test character or the armature. Now I believe on this one we're actually moving the skeleton 3D. Not the skeleton 3D. It says skeleton 3D, but it's actually armature. Super just confusing. So that's the thing that we're rotating. It's either going to be the test character, one of these other nodes, probably, because otherwise we're going to end up with like issues because we're doing rotations in two separate spots. Like in theory, you probably want to do this in the same place. It just depends on your project, right? So I'm rotating because I get the information of the input already for the animations because I need to know like what direction to rotate the legs for everything else. So that's how come I'm doing it here. But the mouse input actually comes from, like the mouse has its own script. So I think we do it there and just hope for the best. So basically what I'm going to do is create another export variable here. So we've got the character and we'll just go export var model and we'll just call it node 3D. It doesn't have to be anything specific. And essentially we have a variable. I don't know if I covered this on stream. I might have done this on like Sunday when I wasn't streaming. we've got a variable when we are in combat, which is essentially when you hold the weapon. And when you pick up a weapon, on manager weapon disabled, non-combat becomes true. On weapon manager enabled, some mouthful, non-combat becomes false. So if non-combat is true, then we do want to rotate the model. Otherwise, we don't. So if we go to camera look, which is our function for the camera, basically what happens is when we rotate up and down, Mario Man 98, welcome to the stream, how's it going? We rotate the camera object, but when we rotate left and right, we rotate the character. Wondering what the stream posted in the Discord was? It was a mistake, that's for sure. Did it get... I deleted it and then reposted. What do you mean by last? Go where? Go where? Go to make a tutorial. That's what I mean by that. So like, this is pretty much done. I'm ready to start making the tutorial. And if I do that, I don't know if I'll stream, but we'll see. I might still stream it at least once a week. We'll still do like the fun stuff. Maybe on the weekends, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. We're about to find out because I'm going to start working on this tomorrow. Right. So, essentially, make some space here we go. If non-combat, then we're going to do character, we're going to go model dot basis equals basis, right? Actually, I think it needs to be model dot transform dot basis. And this has to be basis like basis. EMS, by the way, Chef Man, are you going to make a game at some point? Maybe one day. I don't really have like the drive to do that. I really like making games. I like making the small games for game jams every so often. The problem is, once you get like, once you start doing the tutorial content, it's really hard to stop. And so like I do like the game jam stuff every once in a while, but like most of the time, like I've just spent like the last month working on this. Model.transform.basis and then model. There's someone in my Discord server that has a lot of progress. That's awesome. Anyway, okay, model dot rotate object local, and it's literally this. We're just gonna take all of this. Give me this. Right, and it's just going to be the inverse, so we just take away that negative, and we're rotating that. I think that's pretty much it. We hit the play, and let's see what happens. Okay, we crash because I haven't set the model. Okay, so probably as well, if model, yeah, we'll go if model, then do this so that like in case I forget to set one, it doesn't crash. Okay, now let's go back to this and say, hey, let's set the model. So the model, I honestly think it needs to be this one and not the one that we're rotating for the input. Let's run it. Obviously everything's fine right now. Now it looks pretty good. What about when I... Okay, so we're not rotating. Okay, so I know how to fix that. In the skeleton. In the skeleton? In the weapon manager? We just need to take into account the direction of the character itself and add that to it. How we do that is another question. Let's go to animation control, and we're doing it. Property get tween. Set OK. Where is it? This thing's way too big. Why are you moonwalking? Wait, what's going on in the chat? I'm only working on ARG because I'm busy. You have dementia? Or is that a mistype? Right, bro, what? Don't tell me you have dementia, bro. That's really bad. I don't know what's going on. You guys have lost me. All right. I can't tell if you're joking about the dementia thing or not. Yeah, like I don't know. That's really concerning. Yeah, anyway. Rotate hip. Oh man, I'm lost. Where is my rotate character? Here it is here. Okay, so this new angle. Right, okay. I remember what to do here. Yeah, though I can chat a little. It meant to be forgetting. Yeah, you just meant it as like, I forget things sometimes. You don't actually have dementia. That's good to hear. I was very concerned for you for a moment. I was like, you gotta go and live your life. You know what I'm saying? So, we need a direction. We've got an angle. That's probably not clear. What do we actually want here? We want to take into account the position of the player. And the rotation.y, right? Well, you just want to add that to this angle rather than taking it away. We're going to call it offset, I think. And it's going to be a float. Right, and so this will need to be passed in pretty much everywhere. How do we get it though? That's the question. Like, is it just going to be like the rotation of the skeleton 3D dot rotation dot y? Is it global rotation? Is that what I'm going to have to go? Global rotation dot y? And then we just need to add that to this offset. Theoretically. Dr. Chaff. Okay, it's crashing. That's because this needs one and we're just going to pass in 0 here. Are you going to make a live where you watch AU horrors? I don't know what that is. Bondo, wait, is ATAN what the hell is ATAN2 function? That's just tan, basically. We're just finding out the angle of 2 directions. So basically, where is that function? Rotate character. This direction is literally like the direction of the keyboard. So let's say you're pressing up, that's just going to be like 0. If you're pressing left or right, it's going to be -90, +90. If you're pressing down, it's going to be 180. That's all this does. Australia has horror movies. Only Australian thing I know is Danger 5 Peak historical documentary. You haven't seen Wolf Creek? Bro, you gotta watch Wolf Creek. We have like some psycho horror movies. At least back in the day, like back when I was like into horror. When was Wolf Creek? That was like mid 2000s, right? Wolf Creek. It's based on a true story too. I'm gonna flashbang you guys. Can I go dark mode? Hello? What the hell? Wolf Creek. 2005 horror film. It's probably one of the better ones. Saw is an American production made by 2 Australian directors. Yeah, we're sick fucks, guys. Like, this is probably like... This is a really good horror movie just on its own. I don't know about 2. I've never seen any of the follow-ups. I just seen the first one. Like, basically the premise, it's actually something that can happen quite frequently in the Australian outback. It's based on like events where people will be murdered, like backpackers and stuff, by like just crazy dudes out there. It's definitely based on a real I forget it doesn't even make mention. Yeah, okay, so it is reminiscent of real life murders of backpackers by Ivan Milat, who's a really famous serial killer in Australia. So, Danger 5 is, what is Danger 5? Yeah, that is Danger 5. Danger 5 is an Australian action surreal comedy television series which premiered on SBS 1. I've never heard of it. I sort of like dipped out of Australian media around this time. Italian Spider-Man? Oh my god. Australian SBS became interested in turning the project into an interstitial television show. Okay. That's really funny. It does sound funny. Peter Jackson is a Kiwi? Yeah. So Australian... Yeah, by the way, yeah, Peter Jackson is a Kiwi, not an Australian, but he did a bunch of B-grade horror before he did Lord of the Rings. Yeah, have you seen the one with the zombies? I forget what it's called. I just remember the lawnmower scene, where he like picks up a lawnmower and he just runs the lawnmower into all the zombies. It's like from the 80s. I can't even remember. Let me see if I can find it. Peter Jackson horror movie, lawnmower. Brain Dead? 1992 New Zealand zombie comedy splatter film by Peter Jackson. I wonder if I could show it. It's actually so funny. I remember like my brother mostly, but like me and my brother went through a phase of watching like really old horror movies. It was mostly driven by him. He was like finding them and I was just watching them with him. And this was one of them. Because this is well before my time. Well, I mean, I was 2 years old when it came out, but yeah. It's crazy. Yeah, it's good shit. But yeah, there's tons of Australian horror movies. I don't know if we do them anymore. The thing is, I haven't paid attention to any of that stuff in a really long time. Okay, let's run this. I don't even know if it works. Everything seems normal. Everything seems normal. Still not rotating. I would say that the problem is this. Now, what if we rotated the same thing? You know what I'm saying? Would that work? Global rotation.y? Or do we just need to get access to that and figure out what its rotation is? I don't like that. I'm just going to try to rotate the same thing and see what happens. I don't think this will work that good. Yeah, it's going. It's going. It's going. Crazy. That is because there's some really wild transforms on that particular thing. It's got a rotation of 90. And I don't know, something with the scale. It's just not what you want. This one here is the one you do want to do. So I guess if we just get access to that, we can figure out. What if we just go owner.rotation? We just need to get access to something that has that rotation. That is not how you spell rotation. Owner.rotation. Okay, it's because I can't see what I'm doing. Let's go with this. Owner.rotation.y, which will technically be the rotation of the character body. Oh, it's going crazy again. Bro. Wait, what the hell? Oh, I know what that is. I forgot something. I need to do this on the test character node. Okay. Bye, buoy. Okay, now we're back in action. It's kind of like being a bit weird, but let's see if we can get this not looking silly. See the rotation of the legs? We have to like work on that as well. Okay, so here we are. We can rotate around the character And then when we turn left and right and stuff, it just picks up that rotation and it looks normal. So I reckon this looks pretty good. Like this is kind of what you expect. There's a little bit of a delay between like the directions forward and back and left to right. Like, I don't know what about that. We can have a look at that. It could just be me, like depending on how I've set up the project. But I think this is honestly what you want. Like if you're in a mode, like if I could picture this, like say this is some kind of action game and then you come to a sequence where you're not, like maybe you're on your spaceship or like you're in a city and you're not actually in combat. This is how it looks. And then when you get into combat, minus the legs, this is how it looks. Now, let's talk about the legs. So when we pick up the weapon, we actually need to rotate the body back to forward. So how do we do that? Let's go back to the animation controller. I would say rotate character, offset. We do rotate it back to being forward. The offset is 0, but it really should just be the camera, right? We should include the owner.rotation.y. That would be the ticket, I think. Yes. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Let's try facing like a weird direction, like facing backwards. Can I actually like pick up the... Yeah, pick up the weapon and we turn around. So I tried the problem I have. This relates to Area 3D. I have it now. How do I hook up the hit successful to take damage from the weapon? I don't know, man. You probably just need to call that function. It's raycasts are kind of like hard like that. If it detects areas, but like the area won't detect it. So you probably just need to query the area and make sure that like it is like a damage area and then call the function on that or something like that. That's what I would do. Okay, so now we've done that. That looks good. Let's figure out this problem with the arm being weird, right? So like we've done all of that. Let's just... So now we have a problem. Well, where's the game? There it is. If I can get it to happen. Where the arm stays forward. Now the reason for this is the tween. Basically the tween for setting the IK is finished, or not finished. And so it's still being set when we actually decide to let go. Which is a problem, right? So we can fix that, but I ran into some issues in testing earlier this afternoon where that caused some other issues. So let's have a look. Basically, what you can do with a tween, you can call it an IK tween. And it'll be a tween. Basically, you can store it in a variable and then query to see if it exists. And if it does, then you stop doing it. And so that'll stop the arm from sticking out, but it'll also prevent other tweens from being called. So set IK influence, right? Finally, the last stream. Now we can expect a short video version of it sooner. Yeah, I guess so. We'll see. Soon? Maybe. Soon? Trademark. Do you guys see that? Like soon TM? That's a really old joke. Anyway. Okay, set IK influence. See how we're like just getting a target tween here? Well, I guess that's what we should... Well, let's just call it IK tween, right? So IK tween equals get tree, create tween. And then you just go IK tween property, right? So we store it in a variable. So now we can see, we can go if IK tween, and if it does exist, then we can go IK tween.kill. Right? And then you can go to the next tween. Now, this should stop the arm, but I think it also prevents the hip from getting reactivated. So that's the next problem. So I don't think we'll find any problems with the arm. Now you'll see that the hip just straight up doesn't work anymore. I'm trying to like, yeah, we basically don't have any more issues with that. But yeah, we've got other issues to worry about, which is the hip tween for number one, and then probably some others, to be honest, because that function's used quite liberally throughout the project. Like, oh, it like straight up just doesn't work. Look, the hand's not in the right spot. And now it is. So like, because I'm calling the hip tween, and then I'm calling the next thing that causes issues. So the only thing that I can really think of is to separate the functions. And so like you have one for the arms and then one for the hip. But I don't really like that. I kind of like that it's just like a single function, if that makes sense. So how can we do this? We could connect the function. There is other functions. Let's have a look at the documents. There might be something else. Maybe we could just like force it to be ended. I wonder if that's an option. Set train, set speed scale. Oh, we could make it parallel. That's an idea. So it does more than one thing. Pause, parallel, kill, is valid, is running. So we can see if it's running. I wonder if there's a way for us to just kill it. Let's have a look at the function list. Back to the top. So we can kill it. We can make it parallel. That might actually be an option. Kept loops left, chain, bind node, interpolate value, is running, is valid, kill, play, set ease, set loops, stop, callback interval. I'm surprised there isn't like a function just to say like custom step. Or like just finish it, just go. Interpolate value, is running, is valid. What should we do here? I want to try set parallel. Maybe that'll help. I don't know. See this? Just like with parallel, the tweener can be added right before this method, make it part of the parallel step. So what if we just go and go dot set parallel, dot parallel is the right function. Let's see if that works. Okay. The weapon's on the head. And then obviously, oh well, I guess I just need to find out if the arm pops up. Yeah, it still does. Which is a problem for us, we don't want that. Oh, I don't know what to do. So, what is the solution here? Dot is running. I just don't know. Returns whether it is valid. A valid tween contained by the scene array. Will contain this tween. A tween might become invalid when it is finished. Tweening is killed or is created with tween.new. Invalid tweens can have tweeners appended. Aborts all tweening operations and invalidates the tween. Makes the next tweener run in parallel to the previous one. Pauses the tweening. Animations can be used. Play. Set ease. Set loops. Set parallel. Pause mode. Determines whether it should be processed during frame. Set speed scale. Stops the tweening and resets the tween to its initial state. It will not remove any tweeners. If a tween is stopped and not bound by any nodes, it will exist indefinitely until manually started or invalidated. This isn't going to help us. I think we're going to run into the same issue. The only other thing I can think of is set up a callback. It's kind of like, I'm not super happy with the code. If it is running, then stop. Like, how is that any different from if it's valid, then kill? Like, I don't think we're going to get a different result here. That's not even Oh, because it's a null value to begin with. That's not going to help us at all. Like, we're going to have the same issue where it doesn't rotate anymore. So what is the solution here? I think I'm going to have to create different... I'm going to need to create different functions for each IK, or just do it in line, right? So like this is used, I use this all over the place. I turn off the IK, and it's basically to like help ease the influence. I think probably here I could, rather than set an ease, I could just activate that, right? Hip IK dot influence equals 1, right? This doesn't need any easing. We can get around this kind of issue, but it still doesn't solve this kind of problem where I'm using this all over the place and they're getting called quite frequently and I'm having to stop and start them all the time, and it's not, this is not good. In fact, I think it's worse if active. I actually think this is not good because the whole point of this function is just to create a tween to set the IK influence, right? It shouldn't really be stored. Welcome back, Mario. So let's grab this. Kind of defeats the point of what the function should do. Because we should be creating a new tween every single time we run this, otherwise it'll never work in parallel. Now the issue is, are we going to run into the arm problem? We will. The way that we can get around that, I don't really like all these workarounds. I'm going to have to probably sit and think. Sometimes it takes me time to figure out exactly how I want to structure this. So when we unequip the weapon, right? We set the hip IK, we set the right hand IK. Once again, order of operations, the right hand IK doesn't even need to happen. But these two here, once again, I would say that the hip influence can just be set to 0 automatically. Like we don't need easing on that. I don't know, let's have a look and see how this looks. The arm still is an issue. It's an interesting one. I can't even tell if there would have been a difference there. We can just do this directly. Left hand IK dot influence equal to 0. Let's have a look. Because the tween is still running. How long does the tween... What is the tween timer on this? Why is it still running? The right hand IK influence is always pretty much... So you set IK influence left hand, right? This one, I don't even think I've been using it ever. So we can just like... Probably don't even start the right hand IK. We don't even need it. So left, where am I calling this? We need to like do a deep dive on this. So when we attach the weapon, we do it for 1 second. It's pretty long. Like, could it be faster? Should it be faster? I don't have my numpad turned on. I'll make that really quick. Do we still have the issue? It might not look very good. See how it comes from the back. Are we no longer, are we still gonna run into that issue? Now the reason for that timing is so that we setting that influence when the weapon is spawned, basically. We've got 4 matches. We set it to 0, Left hand IK equals false. Left hand on the reload animation equals true. Now what's the default speed for the set IK? It is 0.2 seconds. Right. But that first one is really slow. And I think that's what's causing issues. On the attach weapon to bone, could it be half a second rather than 1 second? Fade time. You sort of get away with it. Like how it lands on their head. I think it's still an issue, to be honest. Whereabouts? Could we defer this to later on so that it gets set once the function is done? So there's a way that we can do this. Just like turn this off for a second. Just delete this. It's not necessary. Setting the IK influence when we attach the weapon to the bone, but there's actually a function on the animation. Let's have a look. Test character. We really just need it to happen. Go to the animation dummy player. Let's go, it's called unequipped weapon. It's the same function for everything. So right here, you have a couple of functions, right? Change weapon complete. I reckon do it here. Right? Start the tween here, make it way shorter. So let's go back to this. Find change weapon complete. And then we can set the IK influence. I wonder if this will cause problems. Left hand IK. Influence 1. And I won't even pass it a time. Right, and then the attach weapon to bone function, we can just leave that off, right? See how that looks? It's fine. But can we create the same issue? Yes, we can. If we press it fast enough, we can always create that same issue. Because that function is going to get called. So the other thing that then we want to do is essentially check. Like failing all of this, we can actually just say, hey, is the weapon, is the weapon manager disabled? Because if it is, we don't need to do this, right? Now, the animation state blend, this is actually not necessary, by the way. We can get rid of this. Blend amount equals 1. So the weapon blend is what we want here. So we can just test to see if weapon blend is equal to 1, then don't do whatever we want to do, right? So we can actually go to on weapon manager on change weapon completed, change weapon complete. Say if animation tree equal to 1, then actually we should say 0. Like that. Assignment is not allowed. We have to double equals. My bad. Alright, cool. Easy peasy. This is going to work. No problems. Okay, it didn't work. So frustrating. It's really annoying because I know that the problem is that the tween is being called and it's not finishing yet. So like this is being set to 0, but then there's still a step in the tween that's happening. I just had an idea. So what we want to do, maybe it will work, maybe it won't. This is such an annoying bug. So we need to get access to that tween, right? And then find out if it's running and kill it when we disable the weapon manager. Okay, tween. So how can we get the tween? I know you can. You can loop through them. Ref counted. Get tweens. Bind node, custom step, get loops. Tween callback, tween interval, tween property. Search help. Tweener. What is it called? Get tweens? There's a function. Maybe for tween. That's a lot to check. It's probably, I don't know, man. I'm not happy with this. Let's try to get it working. Is it RK influence? Let's just make this a variable again. I hate this. Is it tween? IK tween. And then we don't need to do any of this. IK tween. But in the manager disabled, we can say if IK tween dot is running. Actually, let's just go with IK tween. Then IK tween dot kill. Right? Yeah. That works. That will prevent this dumb hand bug. Seems like it's doing an okay job. Okay, it just like bounces on the guy's head when he drops it. But like, oh, you know what it is? The position that it drops at is at the hand of the character, but because it's inside the collision shape, it instantly gets popped on his head. Wonder if we should maybe make it so that these two things don't collide. That's probably a better choice, right? The way that we can do that is by setting up a separate layer for those objects. Whoa. What are they on? They are on layer 5 for objects. So we can just create weapon pickups. I like how this one's called enemy. Weapons, right? We just put it on layer 6. I guess I have to like check all of them. There's only 3, it's not a big deal. Go back to the world. Click the other one. Pistol, open the pistol. Change it to layer 6. In the bat. Change that to layer 6. And then the ammo clip, I guess. Let's have a look. Change that to layer 6. It probably needs to mask layer 5. We do want them to interact with the objects in the world. Like if you dropped it onto a box or something like that. That's what layer 5 is for. And then we come back to the test character. Actually, it's the player. And for the player, they mask 2, 1, 3, which is enemies. Do they not mask objects? Why is it like landing on top of them though? That's pretty funny. That's kind of weird. They kind of should mask objects. Let's go back to the world. The answer is because these mask the player, not the other way around. Players on layer 2. Right. They don't need to mask that. Go back to the bat. And that didn't ever mask the thing. Actually, now it should just drop straight down. And it does. Yeah, that makes more sense. That looks a lot better. Okay. Okay. The pickup no longer works because I changed the layer it's on, which is great. Object picker. Have a mask 5 and 6. And now we can pick it up again. Awesome. Okay. I mean, that's really it. Like, ready to ship. You could just like make a game with this. That's good. Like, I don't know. Obviously, there's some like we could work on some artwork, or not artwork, but like effects, right? Like I never do effects, I never do sound. Sound is something I did want to try and include. So that's, but it's so easy. We can just like get that in now. Project debug. Let's turn off the visible collision shapes. I don't think we need them anymore. We gotta fix up this guy. He's broken. Oh, my bullets no longer detect him. Oh no, they do. They just don't do that much damage. Oh, my pickups, they don't work either because I broke everything. Pickup detector. Have it mask layer 6. Now we can pick them up. Cool. Let's try and add some sounds. Why not? Feels pretty good. We're just like going to the next weapon every time and then just like drop the weapon. It's pretty interesting actually. Drop. Drop. The arm like flies out to the left a little bit. Because the IK is like going crazy. There's some polishing that definitely could be done. Can we just not turn the IK off when we drop a weapon? When we change a weapon, we do. But when we drop a weapon, do we not? Interesting. So many ons. Drop. There's no drop. We just send the change weapon. So in the weapon manager. Weapon to drop, weapon index, change weapon. Okay, so if we're changing weapon, this is the weapon manager, so it's not really that helpful. We want the animation control. Change. When weapon manager, weapon changed. If weapon to drop. We do set the IK influence to 0, so. Don't know. I don't know. This is definitely not being called. It doesn't matter, who cares? Not that important, it's a very minute detail. Okay, that's pretty easy. Alrighty, what's next? The next thing is to make a video. A really, really long video. I basically have to make it again. And record myself doing it. and then do voiceover. The way I like to do tutorials is probably a little bit different from other people. I don't normally do them live because I find that they become too long. So generally for me, like the strategy is, number one, make the thing that you want to make. Otherwise it's going to be really hard to stay consistent across like a really long series. So have it done, number one. And then re-record yourself doing it. Now, in the past, I've just recorded silently and then just come back and done voiceovers over the top, edited it down so that like, basically if you make mistakes when you're doing the recording, so if you do the recording with your voiceover and say like you're actually doing like a live tutorial, then one, it takes way longer because you're speaking a lot slower. And number two, it's really hard to edit out mistakes. So say if you say something wrong, you do the code out of order, those kind of things can be really hard to like fix up once you're done filming. So what I actually think is easier for me is if you just film it all without talking and then edit it into a video that makes sense when you watch it and then do the voiceover afterwards. So you basically come back and you like, I literally like sit down and watch the video and then just talk about what you should do like as it goes along. Sometimes I need to write stuff down because like I don't know the words, but like the easiest thing is just to do that. But what I'm thinking this time is I'm going to do it. I'll do it live, but mostly just for internal notes so that I know what I was trying to do in the moment. Because sometimes the problem I had was that sometimes I would forget what I was trying to show and then cut it. And then something else wouldn't make sense down the line. And so you'd have to sort of like do a lot of editing to make sense of things, like literally using special effects. Like I would like snip bits out and like have them in, track their position so that when you scroll, it looks like it's part of the script. It's like, it's crazy the amount of effort I used to go through like to cover up some of my mistakes because I forgot stuff later on down the track. But yeah, we'll try that. I don't know how long it'll take. It's been a long time since I've done something like this. Like unironically, it's been like 8 months since I've actually made a tutorial. And some of the ones that I did at the start of the year, I did actually live record them because I was like really burnt out and I just couldn't bring myself to edit anymore. But I don't actually think it makes for a good product. I actually think it's better to record the voice in post. Which means more work for me at the end of the day. But hey, it is what it is. I think, I don't know. I'm hoping for it to do well. But you never know. It could be a total flop. And that'll be a waste of my time. But that's okay. That's life, isn't it? Okay, animation player is not working. Take one? It's really like angry at me for something. I don't know what. Couldn't resolve track. What the hell? I actually don't know, and I have a hard time caring. Let's look at sound. I need sound. Let's go to Kenny. Kenny's got some sound effects. I'm using his weapon, so I might as well use his sound effects. Hey dude, how do I remove a rigid object in one scene or the entire scene with a raycast from another scene with a button press? That's really easy. You just need to like set up your project so that you can, so essentially like how do you remove a rigid object? So this is essentially what I'm doing here. Okay. So, this on the ground is not what I pick up, right? It gets deleted. It is a rigid body. So it has gravity and stuff. It just falls around. The player doesn't interact with it, so it can't actually influence it. But when I pick it up, I remove it from the scene. And the one that you see on the hand is a completely different. It gets reinstantiated as something else because like that's just how these things work. So how do you do this? The answer is, well, I'm not actually using a raycast, but it wouldn't really matter if you were. You can use a raycast to do something like this. So like when I'm aiming at it, it highlights itself and I can pick it up, right? If I'm not looking at it, when I press F, nothing happens. But when I look at it, I press F, I pick it up. So generally what you want to do is have a function, right? So I've got show outline, hide outline. That's just for the outlines. But I've also got ammo picked up. And if picked up and there's an option to delete or no ammo, key free. So this is for when, and this is actually different. I'm getting a little bit sidetracked. Actually, let's go to the player. And we've got the, not the pickup detection, but the object picker, which is attached to the camera. Now it doesn't really do anything on its own. Basically what it can do, for your information, this is just a area 3D, but it is in the shape of a raycast. So you can see it here, where you actually, it's kind of hard to see. That's body detection, collision shape, object picker. It's actually impossible to see. Where is it? Oh, there it is up there. Oh, it's attached to the camera. Of course it is. Yeah, so you see this? It's just a raycast. But it's in the form of an area 3D because it's just a little bit easier to detect things with it. You don't have to pole it, which is a lot more neater, at least in my opinion. But the outcome's still the same. So basically, when the body is entered, we do the outline, right? But actually what we want to do is check for interactions. So when there's an input, say when I press the F key, we check for interactions and we look for overlapping bodies. So I look in to see if there's an overlapping body. I filter interaction. I send this to the function filter interaction. There's actually nothing else going on because I'm not able to pick up anything else right now. But right now we've got if body is weapon pickup. This is a class custom created for these weapon pickups. So if I go to these, it's just a rigid body 3D, but it's got a class name and it's got these 3 functions. We go back to the player. A ton of errors. Not related. Then we emit that to something else. We actually just pass it on. This object picker doesn't do anything except for detect objects. We emit that signal to go to method, the weapon manager, right? And where is the function? On object picker weapon picked up, and we pass the weapon and we say, well, we're just checking a bunch of things, but basically what we would do, we add the weapon slot to the weapon manager and then we just delete it. We've just got that object. We just go weapon.keyfree. It's done. Like, see you later, buddy. You're dead. And I just realized I went full screen and you guys can't see that. That's super annoying. What button is that? There we go. But yeah, you get the idea. You gotta make sure you press it. If I press Control Shift 11, it full screens the script, but if I press Shift 11, it full screens the window, which is like kind of crazy. But yeah, so this is it here. Where'd it go? Object weapon, excuse me. Object picker, weapon pickup. So basically I do a bunch of raycasting to figure out that I'm even looking at a weapon. And then once I do, I just pass that on to this. And all this does, I mean, it's obviously, it's very specific to this project. I'm checking to see if the weapon manager's enabled at all. Because if it's not, then I need to enable the weapon manager. And then the next thing I'm checking to see if the weapon manager is enabled, do I already have that weapon in my weapon equipment slots? And if I do, just stop. We don't need to go any further. And then obviously if we don't, then we need to append the weapon to that array, change to that weapon, because when you append something, it just goes to the front of the array. So we just change that weapon and then we just delete it from the scene. And that's literally it. Super easy stuff. So yeah, we would be removing that entire scene, technically. Makes sense? Hopefully. And here it is again, just for good measure. We just go look, pick it up. And then everything that you see the character do is all just animations. Like, it's a trick of the mind. We're not really picking up that rigid body 3D in the hands of the player. It's a different object made to look like the same one, if that makes sense. Which, to be honest, I found pretty hard to deal with when I was first starting out. I really wanted them to be the same object. I don't know why. Like, why does it matter? You know? But yeah. Oh shit. The rotation problems there. We'll look at that. Okay. Sound. We were doing sound before I got distracted. Okay. Audio. Audio, audio, audio. You're not deleting VOD or anything. I kind of did half of this. It just doesn't work for some reason. I'm not deleting VOD. What do you mean by that? You're not at home? That's okay. Hi-fi sounds. Casino audio. Impact interface. We want impact sounds. Sure. Download. What is it? Stream recording. Yeah, the VODs are available afterwards. I'm gonna make this. Impact sounds, sci-fi sounds. I already downloaded this once before. I'm gonna make this. This whole project will be open source at some point. I've got a couple of licensing issues to deal with, but we'll get there. Okay. I need to create a folder. I really like game assets. Yeah. Game assets. I think the whole like deleting things or removing objects and like putting them somewhere else is like, it's kind of like, it took me a while to fully understand all of that kind of stuff when I was starting out. Like whether or not, like not wanting to queue things free and just like creating more objects. Like more objects is always the answer. It's like, you don't want to like try and repurpose that for something else or have like a different version of it. Like a different mode. It's like just delete it and create a new one with the same asset so that it behaves the same way. Extract to here. Yes to all. Okay, let's see if we can find something. Metal, impact, plank, punch, soft, maybe wood. Laser. Okay, I don't know how loud these are going to be, so I'm going to turn down the desktop audio a little bit. Go this way, go that way. Not that bad. We can bring that back. It's alright. This is something that's going to get played a lot, so we should probably choose something that's not that annoying to listen to. This is much better. Too high pitch. I don't like that at all. This is good. Okay, let's go with laser 3. Okay. Alright, so basically in the player, we've got energy object assets. I'm going to go to Open File Manager and just dump in, like I create a new folder called audio. Oh, whoa, what the heck? Keyboard went crazy. And then we'll just copy that over there. Let's take 2. Right. Now, basically what we need to do is go to weapon resource. And in this script, we essentially want to, this function is never used, by the way. We've got like weapon stats and then we've got weapon behavior, right? Can be dropped, weapon to drop, weapon spray, yada, yada, yada. Incremental reload, we haven't visited that yet. We could probably take that out, to be honest. No shotguns for you. Export var audio. On fire. And it's just going to be a audio stream, I would say. that's the right class, right? It inherits resource, so that's how you know it's the correct one. Otherwise, it wouldn't let you. Okay, so the whole thing is basically we want to pass that off to something that plays the sound, right? Now it can be in a lot of different locations, but like realistically, we could just like have something on the player would be fine, right? So we go to the inspector. We've got this weapon slot. We've got the weapon rifle. So it wants now an audio on fire, basically. You can scroll up the top of this audio and go to laser 3, right? Let's create an audio stream player 3D. Actually, we don't want 3D. We actually just want an audio stream player. We don't need it to be 3D, right? Like, you don't really need that for the player, right? Like, you just want to hear the sound. You don't want to hear it based on its location. That's kind of annoying. Like, maybe you could, but I don't know. Like, it's kind of one of those things. It's like, it could go either way. Like, you could make this 3D, and then you could set its position to be at the end of the weapon, and if the camera was unlocked, then maybe that would matter. Like, you could... It's always going to be in the same distance from the camera, so like realistically it's not that important, but it's really up to you how you want to do that. So we don't actually load anything into this. I'm going to create a bus for like FX. I'm just going to pull that down a little bit. Always take a little bit off the top. You never want to be at 0 dB. You never want to be at 0 dB. Because like, you need the room, right? You need the space in the audio. So you want to be just a smidge down from that. Make room for all the other audio in your project. Okay. So we can just call this like, it honestly doesn't really need, just call it like a weapon audio. Not that important. It could even be a child, to be honest. What buttons do I need to press? My screen, I can't handle it sometimes. Export of video player. Oh my god. Here we go. Audio player is an audio stream player. Audio stream playback, I guess. Okay. Right. Click on the weapon manager. We got an animation tree. We don't have access to that. Are we using that for anything? Okay. Hang on a second. Why can't I see it? That's super annoying to look at every single time. Let me just close some stuff. Godot's being weird. This is an audio stream player. What did I do? Oh, it's really annoyed. Can only be built-in resource node. Yeah, okay, so like I chose the wrong thing, but you led me down a misleading path, Godot. There we go. We can just choose that, right? And then essentially, whenever we shoot, pretty easy stuff here, shoot. So we really only want to shoot when we fire the weapon, right? Because this is when we're actually doing this. Load projectile, probably. So we can go, actually let's just do it in the thing before that, the last fire weapon. So we can go audio player dot play. Actually, we want to set stream first. Okay, stream equals current weapon slot dot weapon dot audio on fire, right? And then audio player dot play. And then position 0, that's fine. In theory, that should work just fine. This is not set up to loop or anything like that. It's going to the master. We'll send it to the FX on the bus. Default playback, that's fine. Everything's fine. I wanted to set up an entire... It's kind of loud. I don't really like it that much. It works. Let's just drop the dB in that. Not too much. All right. Give it a pass. What about the pistol? We'll give it the other one. We're going to go to player, weapon manager, weapon resource, pistol, audio on fire. We also probably need to check to make sure it exists, right? Because if it doesn't exist, then that's a problem, right? It'll crash. So, how do I move? Well, how do I do this? Go to shoot, fire weapon. We need to go if current weapon, just check that exists, and if it does, then play the audio. Let's pick up this. Gotta reload first. Okay, we have sound. Horrible sound. Can we swap these? I think the other, it'd be better the other way around. Rifle 1. I think that's more tolerable. You know what I'm saying? Now what about the impact? You could do something with that. I've never really put audio in my projects before, but I can't see why not. You know what I'm saying? BG music. No, that's not the right folder. Okay. We've got some impact. I can't barely hear that. It's playing through all of them. That's pretty good. We'll just do one sound for now. We actually only have one bullet, so that's probably all we can do. Okay. So, if we've got a projectile, area detection, projectile, rigid body projectile, here we go, yeah. Now this launches a projectile which instantiates another projectile. Very clean and makes a lot of sense. But this should really spawn something, right? Like this, once this makes impact with something, there should be like some kind of effect, right? So we could go add export var impact effect. It's a pack scene. And then we just have to make like an impact effect, right? Totally easy. We just have to do some particles, which means we have to go back to Kenny to make some particles. Assets. UI textures. Pattern pixel, pattern pack. These are really all you need. Prototype textures. Yeah. Will that work? I think it will. Maybe one with alpha, so I don't have to think as hard. This is kind of weird. I don't know about those. There's like particles. I know that he's got a particle one. Particle. Smoke particles. Particle pack. There we go. This will do. Oh, why is it taking so long? Am I lagging? Stream looks okay. Maybe it's because I'm streaming that this is going to take ages. Oh my god. 14 megabytes. 15 seconds, 20 seconds. It's really not that fast, is it? Pretty bad. Paste in. So annoying. And delete. Okay. Let's make some particles. My favorite thing to do. Particle. GPU particle? Or, well, let's just make it a Node 3D to begin with. And then just add, like, some particle effects. CPU or GPU? What do you reckon? I never know which one to pick. I reckon GPU. What is it saying? Nothing is visible because meshes have not been assigned to draw passes. A material process is not assigned, so no behavior is imprinted. That's fine. You have to come to geometry. I forget how to do this. It's been a long time. Draw pass, +1. Then we just put a quad mesh. A material process. Where is that? Process material. New shader material. Shader. New particle process. So there we go. There. Now we're talking. Right. And then you add a standard material 3D to this, and you make its albedo something from this. I remember how this works. I'm not that good at particles. Particle pack. Transparent, right? Fire, flames, magic. What do you want? Flash, smoke, star. And then transparency is alpha. So it looks like that. Blend mode, add, subtract. Doesn't really matter. We probably want this to be disabled, so it draws from either direction, right? Maybe even billboarded. Unshaded per pixel. There's an option for billboard somewhere. I forget where. Orientation, face Y, face Z. We'll find it. I think it might be in the process material. Drawing. Is that billboard? So now it's always facing the camera. Nice. I guess because the bullet is blue, this should be blue too. Emission, so that it has some light to it. Energy multiplier. We make them really bright. You know what I'm saying? Something like that. Okay, cool. That's good enough for me. Like, I'm honestly fine with that. Doesn't change anything. Okay, cool. Alpha scissor, I'm trying to work out. Ooh, that looks pretty good. Which is better? Alpha hash. Interesting. Honestly, like, I know it's not supposed to look like that, but that's kind of cool. Depth pre-pass. Interesting, eh? Good this. I kind of like this. This is cool. Alright. Particle flags. Okay, now we need to work out what it does. Time. It has a lifetime. It's very short. Right? One shot, to be honest. But we'll, you know, we'll make it one shot before we end. Collision. Okay, we got this. I know how to do particles. I know what I'm doing. Process material, particle flags align, spawn, position, angle, velocity, spread. Dude, I haven't played with particles since Godot 3.4. Animated velocity, angular velocity. Dude, it looks all different. Gravity, right? That's the thing that I want. I sort of want them to go spawn position, angle. This is kind of cool that you have like the little min-max. Direction, right? It'd be like not... I gotta turn gravity off. Where's gravity? Directional velocity, orbital velocity, radial velocity. Hi, sorry to bother. Why is this the last stream? Well, I mean, it's kind of like it's a bit clickbaity, but it's more like I'm sort of finished with the template that I'm making, so I'm switching to probably making a video about this template that I've just spent like the last month making. So essentially, I don't know what my streaming schedule will look like once I start doing that tomorrow. Basically, I haven't quite figured it out yet because like I'm just like a regular guy. I have a full-time job, so it'll just be a matter of like working in all that kind of extra work that I do around that, because like I was making videos obviously, but that's actually really hard work, so I switched to streaming because it's a lot more relaxing, but I still want to put stuff out, so I sort of like have to stagger everything. Off game dev. Wait, nah, I'm not going to stop game deving. It's too much fun. Okay, initial velocity needed. Oh, ooh, ooh, ooh. Now we're talking. This is doing things. It's view from the front. Make this like 5. Low key, this is actually pretty good. But the direction is not quite right. I'm trying to think, like, if this hit a wall, what it would look like. It's a sparkler. Yeah, it kind of is. It's just going to play when it hits the wall, right? We'll have an audio player. And that will have that audio that we grabbed, and that'll be pretty much it. And then this will be set to one shot, so it'll look like this. It's probably a bit too quick. I mean, a bit too long. Make it like 0.1. And speed scale, explosiveness. Make it 1. Actually, no. Add some randomness to it. I need them to get smaller as time goes on. Scale. Scale curve. Scale over velocity, interesting. So basically I want it to be like that. Enable. That looks pretty good. And we need the audio. Yeah, it's fine. Let's put this in the FX bus. And damage area. Where does this live? Weapons? Models? Nail pickups? Effects? And this is impact? Right? Plasma impact. Let's call it something like that. Plasma. This needs to be capitalized. Plasma impact. That's not going to make a sound. It's like the strangest. It's just like a... It's like if it hits something. I don't know. We'll just roll with it. Let's add an effect to this. And essentially, we just need to get access to these two things. It's really simple, actually. We don't need much here. Right, and then on ready, we just go GPU particles 3D, dot emit equals true. I believe that's the right way to do it. Sets the node emit particles. Set emitting true. If one shot is true, setting emitters to true will not restart the emission cycle unless all are. Use finished signal to be notified once all active particles are finished processing. For one shot emitters due to the particle being computed on the GPU, there may be a short period after receiving the finished signal during which setting this to true will not restart the emission cycle. Fair enough. And then audio stream, player 3D.play. Right, pretty straightforward. And basically on the rigid body bullet, we want the impact effect. So we go and we find that in our folder here. Effects, impact. And essentially what we need to do is when do we find out that this has actually hit something? That's a question. I believe it's actually in this, right? We go key free, body.hit successful. Interesting. On body entered body, projectile, rigid body 3D. Hey, PBM Love. That's a tough name to pronounce. Thank you so much for the follow. What is it? PBM Love? PBM and Love. Hey, welcome to the stream. First time chat, hey. How's it going? It could just be PB. Alright, PB. Welcome, welcome. Alright, so... how do we know? We just queue it free? We just delete the entire thing. Launch rigid body projectile, add child. Right, so it's a child of this, and this just deletes itself once it actually hits something. That's interesting. What happens if the body is hit successful, body.hit successful damage? Interesting. I didn't know I did that. Is that what I want? Really? I might need to look at that. Interesting. I thought the damage area was responsible for calculating the damage, but I'm doing body.hit successful damage. I honestly didn't know that. I was fully convinced, if you had asked me before looking at that, that the enemy damage area is responsible for actually emitting that.
TTS Boo, did I scare you?
You did actually. And then you got hit with an ad. Damn, those ads get crazy, eh? Keep getting hit with like a perfume ad, and it really annoys me. If body is rigid, body bullet hit successful, body dot damage, body Q free. We are doing it there as well. Body dot hit successful. Gross damage, damage multiplier, on body entered. We're calling it here too. I don't know about this. I don't know like what's doing damage. This is actually really confusing. Why is it like this? Should this be here? I want to remove it. If body is damage area, body dot hit successful. Like, why am I calling that twice? Like, I'm calling it on the enemy as well. Reduce health. You did scare me a little bit. I wasn't ready for that. Actually, to be honest, I did see the actual text come through before it came through, so it gets deleted. Like, why was that other piece of script there? Was that necessary for anything else? Like, why is it like that? Is it just a remnant of... I don't know. Let's not worry about it too much. I just removed it. I'm glad I found it before I started recording. Wonder if I'll find much more like that. Oh well. It is what it is. Can't really control it. Alright. So the rigid body projectile, it just deletes itself. So what we can do is the projectile is a rigid body 3D, but it's actually a rigid body bullet, to be honest. And so the rigid body bullet underscore projectile dot impact effect dot instantiate, right? But impact effect. It's what is it, a node 3D, right? Who should be responsible for this? Should it be this object that gets the callback, or should it be the thing that it hit? I reckon it should be this, because then I'd have to like put it everywhere, all over the shop. Like if it hit the wall, like I don't know, the wall doesn't care that it got hit, like who cares? I don't want to put script on every single object. Okay, impact effect dot node 3D. Headphones are kind of hurting my ears. Alrighty. Impact effect. So then we can go, we can't add it to this. We sort of have to say like, get tree dot get scene root, get root, get scene dot root, dot add child, impact effect. Oh, have a good sleep. Yeah, it's getting late. And then everything should just run, realistically. Yep. I'm not seeing the impact effect though. You know why? That's because the position is not correct. It should be impact effect dot global position equals the body. Is that really the impact point though? Like, I wonder. Because if I say body dot what about the normal? Hang on a second, what is that? Launch rigid body projectile, camera raycast. Restore the normal. Intersection dot position is really the normal. No, that's not really what we want. What we want, actually, go back. I'm getting a little bit lost in the source here because back. It actually should be the projectiles global position dot body. Sorry, impact effect is equal to the projectile dot global position. It's set it to be the same point. Looks pretty good. Hey, not bad, eh? I'm getting some errors though. That's because I'm setting the position before it's in the scene. Godot doesn't like that. Could be smaller? Maybe? I don't really like the sound, but it is what it is. And in theory, because I set it up on that one bullet, it should just work for this as well. Yep. Damn, that looks good. Okay, so let's, before I do that, okay. No more errors. Awesome. So that is how you do a visual effect like that. It's pretty easy. There's not really too much to it. Like obviously you can go into like a lot more detail. Inverse square, what does this do? I actually don't understand this node much. Decides if audio should get quieter with distance linearly, quadratically. Attenuation of loudness according to linear distance. Attenuation of loudness according to squared distance, logarithmic distance. Okay. Interesting. Max dB. Volume dB. Max dB. So it's the absolute maximum of the sound in decibels. Yo, I reckon this should not... This should be like 0. Who designed this shit? And then the volume dB should be like -6. Just my opinion. What's the unit size? The factor of attenuation. Higher values make the sound audible over a larger distance. Okay, that's fine. Play, audio play. Max distance. Oh, well. Let's make it 20 meters. That's pretty far. So, okay, I guess that's 20 meters. Make it 40 instead. Just go all the way up to 100. I actually think you can hear it, it's just really quiet. I'm pretty sure it's there. I kind of like that. Awesome. Great. That's some sound effects. I guess the ultimate test. This actually doesn't delete itself, so like I should probably connect the signal on this, which is finished, to the script, and then remove it afterwards. Right. Key free. Great. I'm pretty happy with that, to be honest. Does it make sense? Like, I don't know, it looks pretty good. I'm not going to worry about it too much. Just fill that out with whatever you want. Alright. What else is there, really? Is there anything else I need to clean up? Like, this project's kind of like... We're good here. Like, what else is there to do? Realistically, I suppose there's no sound for the bat. Kind of hard to do. The bat's a bit different, right? I wonder if there's any kind of error if it's not set. I'm pretty sure it's all good. Like, if it impacts something, it's not... Like, their scripts are separate, so it's not really going to cause too many issues. Interesting problem now that I can't pass through this dude is that I can't reach him with the bat. That is actually hilarious. I didn't realize that when I turned on collisions for the two. Does normally you don't collide with the enemy, right? I guess it depends on the game. I think I am hitting. I'm making contact. Am I? Yeah, I am. So this must just go outside it. Happens too quick. It technically would clip through the wall too. Right. So I guess we have to play a sound for that. What have we got? That is not appropriate for a bat. Definitely not. Nope. We want like a swoosh. That ain't it. If I clipped it, maybe. Alright, let's have a look at some other sounds. What about footsteps on carpet? That kind of sounds like... How is... No, that's not right. Low key, that would kind of work. Perhaps using object pulling for the bullets? Do I need that? I don't think I do. Technically, I'm not spawning enough bullets to do. Like, I think that's probably a little bit over the top for what this is. Like, a lot of people say you don't need it. Am I already doing object pulling though? Like, let me think for a second. We store it and then we spawn it, right? Like object pulling, no, I'm not doing object pulling. Let me think for a second. That would be, not the enemy, not the rigid body. That would be like, in the weapon manager here, we are spawning a new one, but like you would just instantiate it one time. And then what do? Do you duplicate it? How does it work? Like, how do you send one out over and over again? Like, that's my question, I guess, with object pooling. That's something I never thought about. Because you just, like, you get this, you instantiate it. But like I said, it's a little bit over the top for this project. It's not necessary for performance reasons. It's just not, you don't need it. But like, every time I fire the weapon, I do spawn one. And realistically, I would only need to spawn once. And then I could just like keep adding them to the scene. I'm kind of interested to know, how do you delete them? I've actually never done it before. I know what it's for, I know why you do it, but I just don't. I think technically I did that for the zombie game. I would just add them to the scene. I never like create more than, that would just be, yeah. Anyway. What else? What else? Oh, I was getting distracted. I need a sound effect for the weapon. For the melee weapon. Voiceover pack, music jingles, impact sounds. I think I already downloaded that, right? Digital audio? It is overkill, but like, you never know. Like, I mean, it's one of those things. It depends what you're spawning, right? Like, if someone wanted to go crazy with their visual effects, then maybe it's necessary, but like, you never know. If you make like a gun that shoots like 1,000,000 bullets a second, you know, then it's gonna matter. Already downloaded this. I guess I'm just gonna use the carpet sound then. Should be as easy as just finding the bat, then adding that sound. Get over here. Footsteps, carpet. See how this sounds. Listen, it ain't the best, but it's something. Interesting. Now, if I hold this down, the sound is playing continuously, but the animation isn't. I wonder if there's a problem here. And you want to be technical too, like, I'm pretty sure as soon as it spawns, as long as it's hitting him, like, it does damage. I'm actually not too sure. Interesting. I don't even remember how I control that. It's a state-based thing in the animation player. If I remember correctly. So when we change weapons, we like change the fire state to be melee. and then when we do a fire animation, we fire, right? But obviously that's not going to happen because we've got a weapon blend turned on. So we just fire. Dude, that looks so bad. Why does it look like that? Fire melee. Oh, there is a delay. That's right. I remember now. Like on the object that it spawns on the I need to learn how to make melee attacks work nice still. I still have an idea like souls work. Yeah, see mine's not that complicated. So basically all I do is on the weapon object, you can't see it here because it's not spawned in, but I attach a rigid body to it, which is crazy, right? So rigid body, projectile 1, rigid body projectile 1, whatever it's called, melee strike projectile, right? It's literally a rigid body, right? And it's literally angled so that it just like fits on the weapon. Like it's weird that it needs to be rotated like this, but it is. But it's in kinematic mode. This is key. It's in kinematic mode. And I wanted it to be an area 3D, but for whatever reason, like Godot doesn't really like animating area 3Ds. Even if you do set the animation to be in the process or physics process, I can't remember what you're supposed to do. If you set up the animation play properly, it still doesn't necessarily work the way that you want it to. I mean, it just sort of spawns in the position it starts and it doesn't get animated. But if you do it with a rigid body and set it to be kinematic, it will follow the weapon. And so obviously this is a really generous hitbox, right? Area 3D is just like, sometimes they just don't do what you want them to. But yeah, this is like a rigid body 3D that'll just follow the trajectory of that. Now, the key thing is, like, you don't want it to do damage as soon as it spawns, right? You want it to start doing damage when it's at the top of the strike, right? When it's on the movement downwards. So I believe there is a strike delay of 0.1 seconds and then there's a timeout. So if it doesn't actually make impact, it just disappears. And this is sort of mapped to the animation. So if I go back to the test character here, and if I just like pull up the melee strike 2 or 1, I actually don't know which one. Right? So 0.1 seconds, we're on the forward swing by 0.2. So somewhere between here and here, we're starting to move forward. It's a very quick animation. And then by 0.4, the animation's done and it'll get despawned. So basically that's what happens there. It's really basic, but it works, you know. Jizzy Dipper, thank you. So we won't complain too much about that. But yeah. It's not like Raycast. Raycast is probably the most like accurate. So this is all just based on like, you would have to do this for, like if you had like a multiple animations, this wouldn't be a good choice, right? It's just because I have a single melee animation, I'm okay with just mapping the delay and the timeout to the animation, right? Like if you had like, you know, however many animations for like however many weapons, you know, that would not be like a good solution. If you had to go in and be like, oh, I have like 50 different swords that you can pick up and they all have different like strike rates and slightly different animations depending on, you know, like your power level or whatever. This is not the way you would want to do it. Like you would have to be doing raycasting at that point, I think, but like how that would work, I'm not entirely sure myself, to be honest. Lots of testing for each animation. Yeah, more than one. I'd say this is not a good option, to be honest. I don't know what would be like a good solution to that. There are people I've seen on the subreddit like posting. There was a guy doing like, I don't know which game. It's like a first-person sword game. The one that I used to play was called Mordau, but there's another one that's more famous, and he was making like that. Game like that, but that is like 100% real time. You have to be calculating every single like date to see if it's making impact with something. This is really basic. If that rigid body makes contact with the area 3D on the enemy, it does damage no matter what. So it's hard to do like really detailed work like that. You have to really, like, if you're making a game that's dedicated to swordplay, then it's important. But if you're doing, like, mine is like, yeah, it's more like an adventure game with guns and stuff. It's like, who cares? Nice. Alright. Actually, I wanted to fix something. I noticed this. Look at this. If I'm looking down, you just run in place. I made a change. I don't think it was on stream. It was a bad change. I made a bad choice. And that was to map the movement to the camera rather than the character. And that works okay, but you run into issues with when the camera's pointing directly at the ground. I would say, I don't even know if I would say it would work nice. I would say it works well enough. The player won't notice because the melee is not like, so you'd say like the melee is more of a last ditch resort if you run out of weapons or whatever, and it's like they're probably not going to use it. It's there because people expect it to be, you know. You could probably exclude it from the game. The only reason I include it is because every time I do a tutorial, well, actually I've only done one long tutorial like this, but when I did the FPS one, everyone was like, how do you do a melee weapon? Yeah, first person, I dodged it up even more. First person, you just like, I just did a shapecast 3D. It's like, whatever. You just detect if something's in that square. It's really not that. People, I don't know if I'm capable of making one that's like really detailed. I'd have to do a lot of research. Okay, so we're in motion. And I did camera controller. We're going to change this back to owner. That should work. And now when I look at the ground, it's not going to matter. I think another problem, when you walk up the hill, it's kind of slow, and I don't like that. I don't think that should be like that. It depends on the game you're making, but I think that's just a simple constant speed here. If false, the body will move faster on a downward slope and slower on an upward slope. If true, the body will always move at the same speed, no matter the slope. Note that you need floor snap length to stick along a downward slope at constant speed. So you just tick that box, and the hills no longer should matter, which is exactly what we want. Easy. Oh, that was interesting. Is that different rate of gravity compared to... Can I boost up to this? No, I can't quite make it. I feel like the fall rate was a little bit different on that second. Excuse me? Hello? I can't get up the hill. Interesting bug. I don't know. Feels alright to me. Could be a bit buggy. Not too sure. Alright. I think I'm ready to get started working on this as like a video. I think it's going to be the camera, the state machine, and then the weapon manager. And then do I do animations last? How do I work in the animations is the part thing that I really think, if I think about the video series, it's going to need to be, we can do the camera and state machine on their own, but the actual character, maybe I bring it in early and just like do it in in tandem with everything. Because at the end of the day, this is just controlled by signals coming from the camera, the movement state machine, and the weapon manager. So you just start with it and then just like show people along the way for each different thing. That probably makes the most sense. I would say that's the way to go. Dude, my camera's on like such an angle. Oh my god. Oh, I broke it. I'm back. It's not that much better. Basically, the cable comes out of one side and pulls it on an angle. It's kind of annoying. Dude, I'm chilling. I think we're good. Tomorrow I gotta start working on this. I guess I'm gonna make a new project. Do a commit for this. And that's pretty much all she wrote, eh? In the stream early, eh? Nothing left to do on this. I reckon it's donezo.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's Mike here at Game from Scratch, and there are...
that. Let's do some reacts, eh? Just thought about it. I hadn't know. What if, when making the animations, you actually divide it as a startup animation, and the rest of the animation would enable you to just activate on the anim started? Would it work? Like, what if when making the animation, you divided it as a startup animation, and the rest of the animation would enable you to activate the animation? I don't know. I think what you're trying to say is like have it drive itself, but realistically, like the information on what it needs to do, like having two animations for each. What do you mean? That's a project. What I do is I have there's a lot going on with the animation player, to be honest. But the tree is pretty it's pretty wild. Basically, you split it in half. There's two. There's the top half and the bottom half. And then there's also like set of states for when you don't have a weapon out. So there's basically 3 sets of states. So you've got the top half when you do have a weapon equipped. So like say if you are running, right? But you're still holding the weapon in front, but then say you had a pistol instead, or a rifle. Like the top half just changes. And then you went back to idle. I think this would enable you to have different timings and not calculate each. Oh, you mean for the melee weapon? It would be hard. You would need to have like a more complicated system than this. Because I just have one animation. So it's not super important to me. Like you could put any object. The way this works is like you could put any, right now it's a baseball bat, but like realistically, it could be anything. You could put a sword in it if you wanted and have it do different damage. But the animation would always be the same, right? Like it would always look like this, and it would always look like this when you hit it. It would never change. Like you would need probably a set of node base. Someone sent something on the Discord that would probably be applicable for that kind of situation, but I think they deleted the comment. I'm not too sure. I couldn't find it after a bit. It was Rainbow Thumb, wasn't it? General game development? Bro, no memes channel? Should make one, eh? I don't know. Someone definitely posted something about this in the Discord and I lost it. Where would it be? Discord's been pretty active at the moment, so it's hard to find anything. I don't know who posted it. Here we go, Vishal. It was you. This may be useful. Oh, it was in the templates. Okay, how to build AAA combat. This is actually like a pretty good video. It's got like a lot of good ideas. I wanted to watch this more closely. I did already watch it once, but on like 2x speed. Ew, advertisements. Switch to personal.
No more damn shaming.
Hang on a second, what are the levels like? Fair fight, shout out.
This tutorial's combined length is already 28 minutes, and our character can do 3 things. Other tutorials have at least jump and camera by now if not ended. Today we are going to outrun those hairs on our tortoise. These 28 minutes gave us a foundation to build our system on, and it will pay off. This is our controller functional by the end of the episode. 3 jumps, 3 strikes, and a camera. Sit back and enjoy, you could check the code later.
To be fair, when I saw this the first time, I don't think this would really be applicable for the FPS controller, because the FPS controller is really simple and it actually uses the animation player to determine its state. So
half of the video is dedicated to creation of a good jump in action. Aim to always solve the hardest task first. For me, the hardest thing is to get good assets, especially animations. For my jump idea, I used 2 jump cycles animation from Mixama.
And Mixama is trash too.
The jump in place I butchered and cut into jump start, landing and 3 frames mid-air state that I stretch and cycle to get this focus position tremor. Then I added sprinting jump cycle that I also divided into jumping up and landing into sprint. The first trouble we encounter after creating jump run move is how do we supposed to wait till it ends? We need a way to know for how long our state is active. It will benefit all states, so let's modify the base class. When switching, we will mark the time of state activation, and then we can just take the difference between that mark and the current moment. I also created a bunch of syntactic sugar
Oh my god, bro, this is complicated.
functions to narrate my code better. Now meet our workflow formula.
If works longer than transition timing.
Step 1. Heavily rely on ability to know what time is it. Step 2. Have skeletal animation to base our internal timings on. Our transition logic
Oh, okay, interesting. So he has just hard-coded it.
Consists of waiting till the animation end and then switching to midair. Check animations end in the skeleton, then write it down and check relevance. Now, when updating, we want to give our character some impulse. I didn't think too much about it and just slapped a flat vertical velocity. Midair is an interesting beast. It doesn't linger for a fixed time. Ideally, it wants to linger for the exact amount we need to fly and then to nicely transition to landing. Lazy solution is to check if it is on floor, but is on floor.
Nah, you gotta raycast, bro. It's the only way, because then you won't know until you hit the ground.
Has no flexibility, is dependent on your character collider and won't work if your landing animations start when your is on floor is still false. The more universal solution is to know the exact height from the floor at any given time. The shortest way.
I actually need to fix this on my project, because right now I have literally a function called where is it? It's here. Check for impending landing. Like, I have an entire raycast just dedicated to that. It could just be a node, man. It doesn't need to be this. It's like, why are you doing this? Just make a node.
I can think of is to have a ray casted from our root bone downwards. Bone attachment is out of the picture because it copies the rotation of the bone and we want only position, so just follow it with a script. Also, visual debugging tools are helping immensely, so create 2 spheres as children for this ray. Talking of debugging, interesting behavior, isn't it? This ray certainly won't help us. The reason
Yeah, I don't know.
for this is our model being a simple node. The character moves because the state's logic moves it. and the visuals move because they copy the pose of the skeleton, but not the position. But the model always stays in place, because, well, it doesn't know what the movement even is in the first place. There is no shame in moving from
Like, why was it a node?
older implementations, so let's just change our model.
This is actually kind of wild. Like, it's so crazy to see other people's scene structure being so different. Like the kinematic body, I always have that as the parent.
Type 2 Node 3D. Mid-air update is trivial. The transition logic checks the distance to the floor and if critical height achieved transitions. Don't focus too much on the numbers for now. The landing logic is trivial as well. It waits, then transitions to the most important activity. The first cycle is done. Although it has some quirks. Let's fix them with some
This kind of looks like my jump. It's a bit floaty.
Custom blending. For now, just create a method for hard-coding a custom configuration of animations blend transitions.
This is, I mean, it's kind of like, I thought this was going to be more specky, but it is just like, yeah, you have to just put in the work, and once you have all your animations, like, get all this information and account for it, basically.
To achieve somewhat plausible results. But ultimately, the nicest transitions you could get are the transitions on the stage of assets creation. If you have an actual animator, tell them that your jump must start from one of the run frames and finish into run 2. It will make your transition infinitely better than any blending. Speaking about having actual animators, look at my purposely awful sprint landing animations. A perfect illustration of an indie life. Badly prepared, stolen animations that start in the wrong place. If we will try to use it like that, there will be unwanted root bone teleportation leading to a leap in animation when midair transitions to a sprint landing, and then again when sprint landing transitions to idle. This unwanted root motion is actually a much worse problem than it seems. Let me create another debugging sphere on a level scene to follow the top level of player node. Now observe this behavior. The player appears to jump much higher than the actual player node thinks it jumps. The reason for this is our motion double dipping. Our model states move player by giving it an actual physical speed, but in addition to it, our skeleton is moving thanks to...
Yeah, I don't do that. Mine is literally like in place. It's just like, oh, where is it? If I go to 3D, in the test character for jump, right? Jump idle, where is it? I guess he is off the ground a little, now that I think about it, but I don't think the center of the character changes. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's still the same place. Height-wise, you know what I mean? I think that's the problem with some pre-made animations from the internet. It's the problem with animations, yeah. Oh, where'd it go? That's the thing. Like, you really have to animate things yourself, or get someone to help you, right? At the end of the day, like, Mixamo is not it.
Jumping up.
I actually despise using it, but like, it just makes things a lot faster.
Animation. That's a tough situation.
I'm gonna replace all of them with my own shitty animations, because it'll just be better.
And work with, and I recommend to avoid it. Better choose a single approach. Either you simulate motion completely with the physics engine and making all your animations to be in place, or you simulate the movement completely hard-coded in animations and don't have physics simulation. Best choice is
Oh man. Choose the left, bro.
to mix and match. For example, the jump works nice with actual physics falling with acceleration and all. Plus, with code it will be more customizable.
I'll use Blender, 100%. It's just easier.
On the other hand,
Because like, you want to be able to use inverse kinematics and like an actual character rig. All that kind of stuff. You don't want to have to do that. Like in Godot, you can. It's really miserable though. Like, you need to like, what do you have to press? There's like a button. It's a secret. You have to press this, reset all bones, and then like create physical export skeleton, select bones, and then you can like grab them, right? Wait, come back here. How do you even look? This button here, edit mode, and then you can select them, but like, it's so hard to choose, and then you'd have to do this. Oop. For an instant, I thought you had done this all in Godot. No way, man. That would be crazy. Godot is just not fit for that. It's just not it. Like it's just not there yet. Like it needs a lot of work when it comes to like animating in 3. Like I could never. I wouldn't even dream of it. Go back to Blender every time.
Strike animations move player a little bit. This little step will be a pain in the ass to simulate with physics and also doesn't require heavy customization. For the strikes, it's better to use the root motion approach. You can use the most imbalanced Godot shortcut here to read a small guide on it. We are creating our jump with physics, so we are choosing to in-place our animations. We need to snap the root bone to a static position. To do this, butcher your animations a little more. Delete all but one keys from the root position track, and the first key will be somewhat idlish position not to teleport. Now do this for all 3 run jumps. Don't be afraid, you can always restore them from assets. See, as we cancelled unwanted skeleton impulse, our jump has much more adequate height. Repeat this root nailing process with sprint jumps. After the animations are fixed, it comes to me that sprinting jump cycle uses the exact same logic as run one, with different timings. Also, we will modify our midair to decide between landings based on horizontal speed. To give it a finishing touch, add more custom blending. To give it a truly thought out impression, add floor checks into running and sprinting states to transition into midair directly from movement if player runs into a gap. Looks pretty damn nice for.
You know what I think is really cool is that like everyone has like their thing that they're into. Like this guy is clearly cares a lot about the animations, whereas I literally I'm like whatever, man. I don't care. Especially when I'm creating stuff like this, it's just not. It's kind of an afterthought for me. But I really care about like the architecture of the management of all the different bits and pieces, like the states and the weapons or whatever. I don't know. It's cool to say.
Hours of working with some general third-party animations. Too early to finish the video. Let's suddenly create a whole workflow for a 3D combat system. What can possibly go wrong? Well, I also don't want to speedrun the code, but to deliver those sweet design decisions into your head. And to achieve that, we need to do some heavy lifting. Point 1. Player has much less primary inputs than there are states in our model. For example, a single attack action in
This is what we're talking about, PB.
Invokes both plunging attacks and a light attack, depending on the situation. The action depends on the current weapon, so either the input reads model fields for contextual information, or we need to add another model layer between the input package emission and states code, some combat system. When designing system from non-existence, you generally have 2 approaches. First one is to think what your new design is not. It is achieved by having strong design principles and opinions. For example, input does not read and or change model fields. Second one is to creatively think of what your design is. There are hints the universe leaves for you on the way. One of those is the language you use. Narrate your goals to your colleagues, to your cat or to your notebook. You can spot often used expressions, like combat system, weapon logic, moves combo. There is a pretty good chance that nice abstractions are hidden amongst those expressions. Combat system layer it is, my friends, but we aren't finished yet. Let's consult the holy sources for an inspiration. First observation, I make 2 strikes, but I press the button for the second strike during the first animation, and it queues. Same with the roll. I can queue the strike and it will actually combo into a roll strike. But can I queue a run? When roll is finished, my character is still facing forward and didn't turn left. This means that in case of Dark Souls 3, the running state is not equal to the strike state, at least in one field. There are some usual non-queuing moves, and there are some moves that can be queued, some combat moves. What if our input package had a special collection for those multipurpose inputs? These inputs must...
I guess you would like, at least the way I think about it is you would have like a combat state, and obviously you can queue up more combat, but then like if you transition to a movement state, it's not something you can queue. But yeah, that's pretty cool.
Be further translated into a proper state machine move. It's starting to come together. Maybe our combat system is the layer that uses contextual information in the model and translates those combat inputs into all our moves. Well, if it does, that implements the transition logic, but we already have thin container with smart states, and the states are responsible for transition logic as well. If we take a part of this work from them, the system starts to smell a bit. The idea of combat input translation is pretty good, but we...
I have this problem. because the weapons control the top half. I mean, it's just with the animations, to be honest. Like the movement, at least in my case, like the movement and the combat they're not related, so it doesn't really matter. But
need to make it thinner to comply with Smart States architecture choice from earlier. Let's pause and think of other nouns we discovered for ourselves. Weapon is an important abstraction. There is a single light attack button, but weapons map it to different attacks. If so, let's create a weapon and put there all the code that maps our input actions into basic moves. Now I see the path. Our very thin combat system takes combat actions, asks a weapon to provide a translation, and puts it into general actions array for smart moves to think further. Okay, now what about combos? Combo from combination is a set of an input and its context that together are turning into different input. Let's create a base combo class. All it has is a field for the combo result it invokes and a function that decides if the combo is triggered. Our input is a package, so function takes it as an argument. Now, as our combo needs also a context, and our states need an access to combo logic to transition, it comes to that combos are tightly composed with states. What if we literally parent the combo to the moves? To rewind, stateless input creates an input package, then combat system translates this input into basic moves with the help of the current weapon.
oh, my tiny brain can't handle this, eh? I get what you're saying, man, but like, and I think it's really good. Actually, it's actually a really smart idea.
Then, if our move can invoke combos in its
but my mind is literally falling to pieces trying to take this all in. It's crazy how fast you have to make these tutorials these days to get people to watch them.
transition,
I feel like this could be like it could easily be like a 9-hour course. Instead it's been like compressed down to 15 minutes.
logic, it asks its combos if they are triggered. If they are, they store the triggered action into a queued move field. Then the states can use state queued move field in further transitions without the fear that it would be lost in time. And, of course, check combos is a base move functional. This way, we can add new combos code into pre-existed states without warping their logic too much. This combo system is nicely put into an input bus traveling, but also is weakly coupled enough to allow custom scripting in the combo invoking logic. These are very good signs. Even though in case of a Souls-like the combos we will face are very simple, this system is scalable enough to create complex and branching strike series.
Sometimes my genius is... it's almost frightening.
Let's finally use our creation. I downloaded and butchered 3 strikes combo. It will take 3 actions. To map our slashes we also need a weapon here. I called mine sword. For now our sword has a single light attack that's first hit in the series is a /1. As always, we are stripping the model from visuals. Create a sword model scene and only attach it to the disabled collider and the debug handle to align it with our character hands. To give our character...
Oh, he uses a collision. Wait, go back. It's a kinematic body. So it's pretty similar to what I did, which was a rigid body, but it's in collision. It's in a kinematic mode. So it's not that different in terms of behavior.
The debug handle to align it with our character hands. To give our character the sword, we need a socket for it on our wrist. Happy little sword. If you use different animations and aren't happy enough with the weapon movement, don't be ashamed to...
I'm also curious. I had to like put all sorts of crazy rotations on mine to make it work with Mixamo. But he doesn't seem to have that issue. Wonder why that is. Is it perhaps rotated? I don't know, doesn't matter.
To create a track for the attachment rotation. Now we need a skin for it. You can use a proper model. I didn't sweat too much and just slapped here a metallic material as a joke. To snap weapon visuals to weapon model, create a small function in the visual script. Quick review of /states. The animation has no root motion, so no update functions. Transition logic utilizes combos. /1 has a combo that turns consecutive /1 into a /2 queued move, and there is a small dead window to differentiate between conscious consecutive input
Yeah, it was probably adjusted on the model.
and a panic and double click. Similar to this, /2 turns into a /3. Also, notice that combo and timing is not equal to transition drop timing. Ideally, you need animations.
See, I did that originally. I'd had like a rotation on the hand for like I have an attachment basically. Where'd it go? So on the armature, I've got like a right hand attachment, which is mapped to that bone with it's called a bone attachment. And it takes its rotation from that. And then this attachment is just 0, 0, 0. And then like I originally had this rotated so that it like worked for each weapon. But it's easier if you've got multiple objects to just like do the rotation for the exact scene you're going to spawn in there, essentially. What I do is normally have a dummy node as a child bone of the attachment and add it to the needed rotation, yeah. Bone attachments are really good. And then, yeah, basically this. But I elected to actually keep that at 0, and then all the attachments have their rotation on them. They're only used for that, so I don't really see an issue with that. For character model, right? So the bat looks like this in orthogonal perspective. So like for whatever reason, it needs to be rotated like this for it to work. And the pistol, it has to look like this. It's like angled slightly towards the camera, I guess, towards the center of the screen. And like, I don't know, that's just how it had to be rotated. Like, the rifle. I think it'll be different when I actually make this video, because I'm going to use an FBX exporter rather than GLB, and I'm going to try to do a cleaner export on this, because this is like, it's really messed up. Like it has like a 0.01 scale and stuff like that. I'm going to try to avoid that next time. I know how, I just haven't done it for this. Angle the attachments so I don't have to rotate more than one thing. Yeah, I think just because I really wanted them to look right in the camera, because they don't always look the same, especially the bat. I think I made that change when it came to the bat, because the bat just did not work. But yeah, be either or.
To overlap. So if player didn't queue second hit, the first hit animation has long tail transition into idle. If second hit is inputted, we can transition to it faster. This little touch adds depth to our combat system, as there is a small window in the slashes that a player can time consecutive attacks differently. I would say, not bad for below our tutorial. But let's work as our own critics for a second. The approach of nesting unique nodes is nice when we are channeling and branching consecutive hits, but what about universal statuses? How about reaction staggered animation that can be invoked from literally every animation in the game? And roll move being comboed into a roll attack with all weapons in the game hundreds of times? 100 copied scripts with different constants and animations? Well, yes, we sold our soul for scalability, and we have a scriptable combo behavior right here. Combo can even have dynamic queued move. You can nest a roll attack combo into a roll move and change the queued move into an assigned attack in the input. That's one combo to many moves. What about stagger? Many moves to one combo that has a very similar behavior, but with different timing windows. Do we copy-paste it? Yes, we do. Godot has a specific term for a node plus script package with manageable constants. It's called a scene. Stagger is a combo that will be nested into its moves in the form of a scene. This scene has the same scripts trigger, but has different timing windows that you can even export and edit them directly here in the editor. In fact, if you think, look at these terrible namings, /1 to /2. Did you really thought a person like me would tolerate these names for long? These scripts are identical with minor differences. All they do is they channel next consecutive attack combos are scenes.
I'm like, it could just be a resource, man. You don't. This is just like a list of strings. Like it doesn't even need to be a node. But I guess it can be.
And the consecutive attacks of all attack lines are being managed with a consecutive attack combo. Right now our attack moves are unique and are walk of love. In the future our moves will be scenified too to enable mass production of them. But look at this giant node tree. Wouldn't it harm us? I probably give away the vibe of clean code evangelical, but I am actually a fan of good enough school. It's really important to not create a system with clean code and terrible performance. Let's inspect it. I'd say our frame processing.
There's no way that any of this really affects a performance that deeply. 1/26 of a frame. Like, is that, we have a term in finance, it's called materiality. Is this material? Alt tabs lag spike. Okay, I don't think it is. It's not material. It's like
times aren't different
Whatever.
enough to distinguish them from basic character 3D script working. My only fault is this memory leak that sneaked into our main cycle. The reason is we are emitting our input packages every frame and don't delete them properly afterwards. Fixed. This system is perfectly capable of being a AAA controller if had right assets while having no significant cost on performance. The only thing we are
Rotation could use some easing. I could help with that. I know how to
missing
do
are
that.
character resources and combat state flags for interaction between different characters. But those systems can be easily built on top of our smart states timings. Was it that hard to build this? Hobby engine for 2D games, my ass. And finally, the moment that triggers me a bit. For some fucking reason, how to build first-person controller and how to build third-person controller are two different search queries.
You need 2 controllers. That's the answer. If you wanted to go from like a third-person view here into a first-person view, if I was going to do that, you have two rigs. You have like maybe even 2 cameras, and you can tween between them, and two different sets of scripts. And basically, you just turn one off, like visibility. You can just fade that, right? Let's use zoom in. They're not the same thing because the camera will never look good from this perspective, like in the center of this character.
The proper controller, please. Then slap there any camera you want. It took me exactly 2 strings of code to incorporate a shitty third-person camera into this character. And if you want a mega ultra sexy third-person camera, you can check my Souls-like camera tutorials.
Nice. That's good. I like this guy. I like his thoughts. I agree. He's posting way more than me. Those thumbnails could use some work. But hey, that's pretty cool. Fair fight. Shout out. Clean code enthusiast. Me too, but my code's not always the cleanest. It depends. Anyway, guys, that's going to be me for the day. For the night. Is it the last stream? I think I'll stream on the weekend. You know, like, I don't know. I'm going to start working on this video and I'll see how I feel, essentially. If I feel like it's going well and I don't need to spend more time doing that, then I can do this. I think 1 day a week, maybe on the weekends. We'll see. I'm not too sure, honestly. Anyway, thanks for the support. Chips has a color pants, rap, big green. Nike, Jice, Bricky T, YGG, Scoremugger, Mr. Sparkle, or yeah, dude, NIJS beer. I'll be here on the weekend for sure. But after that, I'm not too sure.